welcome on in, my dragon folk, to the very first episode of A to Z Commoner Edition. That's right, we are going through every single hero from A to Z in the current Commoner format for Flesh and Blood in the season of High Seas. So obviously this is going to change a little bit when Super Slam and stuff comes out, and obviously as the scene continues, but I wanted to keep this a pretty fresh series so that way people can continue to look back on these videos and actually enjoy the changes, and you can see the changes that are made to the heroes as the time goes on. So first and foremost, our very first hero, and believe it or not, one that I held near and dear to my heart when I first started Commoner, being Arakni. Now, this is the contract version of Arakni, in which if you play a contract card, you can look at the top card of your opponent's deck and you may put it on the bottom. Now, this is really effective in this situation because it means that if you see a D react at the top of their deck, for instance, you could always go ahead and put that card to the bottom of the deck. This is super effective just simply because you get to look at the top card and go, hey, I don't want that D react, put it to the bottom instead. And then that way, you know that they have less defenses on their side coming up in the future for these games. So what I wanted to go ahead and do is start off with Arakni. Obviously, is the first hero in this list, and I wanted to talk about a commoner deck for them, so that way you can go ahead and see exactly what this hero is capable of. So a pretty standard loadout here for the hero. We've got the Blade Beckoner helm and the chest plate piece. You also have the Danger Digits and Snapdragon Scalers. This is a very go wide kind of deck, providing a lot of these on-hit disruption effects. And you want to make sure to go as wide as possible, especially towards the end of the game, because it allows you to get a lot more value from getting the tempo in your favor. Then notably, we are running the Spider's Bites here. Now, a lot of the assassins that we are going to cover in the series care a lot more about marking your opponent with these, Mark of the Huntsman's or any of these marked cards. But Spider's Bite, believe it or not, pretty good into Arakni, just because Arakni wants to hit more specifically. And so if a Spider's Bite hits, this allows for a lot more of a disruptive turn, because when this hits a hero, the next time they defend with one or more attack action cards this turn, those cards get -1 while defending. So you're effectively making their attack actions block for one less, which is really important because you want to make sure to really threaten your opponent's defenses and whittle them down to be able to take hold of the tempo there. But moving into the deck list here, you're going to see a lot of cards that you're probably not going to see in any of the other assassin decks, and these being the contract cards. So what contract is, if you're unaware and you're brand new to the game, contract is a keyword that says you are contracted to banish a thing, right? Each one of these cards has their own different contract, which is a card that they are looking to banish when it hits the top of the deck. So if you hit your opponent, you banish the top card of their deck. All of the contract cards are going to say this roughly. And if that card is of any of these contracts, then you get a silver token. Now, silver doesn't do a whole lot for you in this format, unfortunately, but it is a way for you to mill your opponent if you're able to get value off of the hits, which is pretty good considering, because you want to make sure that you are always presenting damage and disruption to your opponent's deck. There is no, fat decking effectively in this format because you're only allowed to have 40 cards in the deck. So as you mill your opponent, you are significantly ripping a lot of these very powerful cards from their deck. And notably, if you have a very high inkling that you're going to hit, maybe you're sitting on an attack reaction, maybe you're sitting on 2 attack reactions. With Arakni's ability, they allow you to just mold the top of your opponent's deck. You know, is there a D-react on the top of the deck? Yes. Let's go ahead and try to banish it. It doesn't matter whether or not it's a card that your contract card isn't looking for. You want to still banish it no matter what, because you can get your opponent to fatigue in those states. So starting off here, we have Annihilate the Armed. These are the contract cards in the deck. There's a couple other ones here that I'll go over too. Annihilate the Armed, it costs 1 and comes in for 5 in red. We're also running the yellows for a breakpoint of 4. and it gives you a little bit more resources to be able to swing your daggers as well. And 4 is kind of that magical number you want everything to sit at, 4 or higher, just because, again, you're trying to make sure that you're presenting these powerful breakpoints. Cut to the Chase is a very powerful attack reaction specifically for contract cards. So when a target attack action that is an assassin attack action and has contract, it'll get +3. You look at the top card of the defending hero's deck and you may put it at the bottom. So you do the same thing as you would with Arakni's hero ability, except on an attack reaction, which is pretty good because it means that if you see, 2D reacts, or you see that they have their pitch stack combo next to one another and you want to change that, you can go ahead and make those decisions there. So Cut to the Chase red and yellow, just to kind of get things going there as far as damage. Incision is our attack reaction for daggers. Nimblism is a great way to pump up any of these attacks. So if they come in for 4, this will allow them to come in for 7, which again provides another really powerful breakpoint. And notably in a 20 health life format, a lot of damage. You do also have Nyx the Nimble, another contract card that we have here. This one's looking to banish reaction cards. But again, you're not really caring about silver. Outed, this is a pretty fun one. If you're marked, you can't play this. And if the defending hero is marked, this gets +1. So in a world, you'd think, well, okay, you don't care so much about mark. So why is this in the deck, right? The reason it's in the deck is you do have the ability to mark your opponent with something like Scar Tissue. But even at the end of the day, it's a 0 for 3 go again with the possibility of it also being a 0 for 4 with go again, which is pretty good. The only downfall is it does not block. So keep that in mind. You're going to want to make sure to get these out of your deck as soon as possible to threaten damage, because you want to make sure that you're not stuck with these in your end game when you have to block in some cases. Pick up the point. This is a great way to go about recurring your daggers. Really, you can flick a spider's bite and then you can buy it back with a pick up the point. But even still, it's a 0 for 3 with go again. So you're threatening 3, and then you're going to threaten 4 or even 5 with your next attack with these contract cards. That's kind of the overall game plan here. Ravenous Rabble, you run mostly reds in the deck, so you're certainly going to hit a red. So this is definitely going to come in for 4. Razor Reflex, really awesome attack reaction. Again, this is kind of the thing a lot of people will try to play around is Razor Reflex. Even on turn 1, being able to pump up something like a dagger to go from 1 power to 4 power, or 1 power to 7 power. If your opponent decides they don't want to block anything and you hit them for 7 on turn 1, pretty good. So definitely suggested to do that. Sack the Shifty, again, 0 for 4 contract card. We like to see that. Scar for a Scar, we all know it, we all love it. Great 0 for 4 go again for you to use if you're on the back foot to keep that life polarity. Scar Tissue, again, this is kind of how you're going to mark your opponent. Not entirely necessary that it hits, but more specifically that it is going to get that +3, so it's another reaction on the dagger for you to mark your opponent. We are running a Sink Below. This is just to fix any kind of hand. So for instance, if you have too many reactions in your hand and you need an attack action, you may want to go ahead and use your Sink Below to filter out your hand. We do have Slay the Scholars, another 0 for 4 contract card. Virulent Touch, which is a great endgame card, strictly because it can't be played from hand, so it does need to sit in Arsenal. But when you have a turn that effectively can go Ravenous Rabble, or even if you do Scar for a Scar, Ravenous Rabble, what the heck is it? Slay the Scholars, and then you use Snapdragon Scalers to come in with a Virulent Touch, your opponent's going to either have to block this, or they're going to take 4 damage. And towards the end of the game, that's quite a bit. And notably, that whole line is a 16 damage line. 4, 8, 12, 16 damage. And if your opponent blocks this with a card from their hand, they do get a Bloodrot Pox token. So it is it's very effective to be able to kind of close out those games, because you want your opponent to think that they're going to have a win, right? That they full blocked it and they're able to keep their hand for their next thing. But if they block with a card and they have no cards left in their hand and they're at 2 life and they take a Bloodrot Pox, they die. So it's really, really good. Lunging Press is another great reaction we have here. It blocks 2, target attack action gets +1. This helps a lot of these Sack the Shifty and Slay the Scholars get over the D reacts, right? Most people are going to look at a 0 for 4 and they're going to go, okay, it's just 0 for 4. I can just block this with a Sink Below or block it with a Fate Foreseen. And you can then just go, okay, cool. I'm going to pay 0 to Lunging Press that to bring it up to 5. Now they take 1 point of damage and lose an entire card from their deck. So Lunging Press is a really sneaky way to go about doing that. Nip at the Heel is also notably not too terrible. Personally, this card's not going to be good into pretty much anything besides using it on your daggers or Pick Up the Point. Pick Up the Point is a really great option for this as well because it can only target attacks with 3 or less base power. So you can still use it on attacks such as your dagger to pump it up by another 1. So if you're coming in with a really big dagger strategy here, you can swing your Spider's Bite and then you can pump it with a Incision and a Scar Tissue, and then if they're able to block out enough of it, you can still utilize something like the Nip at the Heels to give it another +1 to kind of get that additional damage over. So still effectively, that 1 point of damage is trying to get over those breakpoints. And then finally, we have our sideboard here. We have an Arcane Polarity, Battlefront Bastion, and a Rally the Coast Guard. Rally the Coast Guard is mainly for Guardians and for Rangers to be able to kind of block out a lot of those really high power attacks with just a card in hand effectively, because you can block this here for 2. And then if you discard a card from your hand, it gets +3. So it blocks 5, which is pretty good. Battlefront Bastion is a great popper if you're going into an Illusionist. And also it's really good into Ira, being able to block a Kodachi for 2 and then be able to block out a breakpoint on the next attack is going to be really effective. So Battlefront Bastion is definitely going to provide some value there. And then, of course, Arcane Polarity. We don't run AB in this deck. There's no AB. There's just Arcane Polarity. And the reason being is because Arcane heroes are a little bit in a tough spot right now. Runeblade probably still, really, it's just Chain being the best he could possibly be. Not the best he could possibly be, but he's doing his best. But Arcane Polarity, notably, just being able to play 1 card and gain 4 life whenever your opponent has hit you with a rune chant is really good. Even if they come and swing at you with something with like Arcane Twining for 1, if they're playing a wizard, and you just get to go, okay, cool, gain 4 life, send 12 damage, and they have to block it. You're in a pretty good spot at that point. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the wonderful desert that is the Talishar queue for Commoner. And let's see whether or not we can get some games in with Arakni, the contract version. All right. Our first opponent here is going to be the oh so wonderful Icelander. So, of course, like I said, we're not running any AB, so we don't really have anything to do here. So notably, what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and put in the Arcane Polarities. And then I think what we'll do is we may take out a, let's see here. I think we may take out a 2-block. Maybe we'll just take out the Pick Up the Points here. No, we still want to threaten that. Let's take out the... We'll take out Sink Below. It's fine. Just in case they have the arcane damage they want to do. So here we go. We're going into Icelander. Now, Icelander notably does not have access to Waning Moon anymore. So it's a little bit of a different game plan here, but I'm very curious to see how we're going to be able to pull it off. Knowing that we don't have any AB kind of feels bad, but I will pay 2 to avoid discarding. And I'll just take some damage and pass. So notably, we get to do some cool stuff here. Cool. Okay, that's fine. So we get Arctic Incarceration off the top. They don't get to do anything else. And then we can go ahead and come in for Annihilate the Armed for 5. Try to rip a card off the top of the deck. I think that'll probably be the plan here, just because we're going to have to keep all the cards in our hands. So, yeah. So we'll look at the top. It's a Winter's Bite. I do want to sink that to the bottom. I don't want them to have a Winter's Bite. So we're going to go ahead and send 5. Odds are they block. Now, notably, I could have kept it at the top, so that way it banished it. That's a much better banish, though, is a red Aether Ice Vein. So there's a Wounded Bull. Now, notably, we can just block fairly okay here, I think. I might even be... I think there's a world in which I even do something like this. Now, notably, we do have an all-red hand, so I would need to be pretty specific about what I keep and what I don't here. Okay, just go down here. And then we'll see they're going to put an ice card in there. We're just going to Ravenous Rabble. We're going to get a red off the top, hopefully. We do. The Nimblism. Okay. Now we're going to determine whether or not this is going to be something that's a feels bad here. Okay. So they undid. No, not going to pay 1. So that's good. So they reacted in that situation. That allows us to still send this. So an Arcane Twining. We won't sink the Arcane Twining. That'll be fine. That can stay on top. Okay, they've got the brothers. Yeah, I think it'll be fine. Okay, they've got 3 cards in hand. They're able to keep the Scar for a Scar. That's pretty good for them. I think notably what I'll do here is I'll probably just... We say no blocks and they send an arcane damage. I guess it's not terrible, so... Wounded Bull. Okay, that's good. So we eked out some additional damage there. Now, notably, we can take 7, but we die to any instant that they have, which they can still play things like blue frosting and things like that from the arsenal, but they won't have an arsenal. So there's no additional value point there. We want to try going as wide as we possibly can here. So I think just because we can't really, I think the best thing to do here is to block 5, keep a little bit of life. And again, the downfall here, and something that you're probably not going to notice too much of unless for some reason, like something changes, Icelander has not been very good in the meta for a little while here. So just because she has not had any of that additional value, we will not sink the Ice Bolt. We'll go ahead and keep that on top. So they could block with a blue here. They could block 6. But they might not have it. It'd be interesting to see. Because notably, though, we do also have a Danger Digits, right? So we do want to make sure that that happens. See, I'm almost wondering whether or not Danger Digits might not be the correct move here. I think we don't care. So we're just going to hit him off the top. We got the Ice Bolt. So that's good. Crucible, send Ice Bolt. And this is for 5? Oh, no, that's for 6. I guess I just die. All right, well, so much for that. Good game. So, again, this is the downfall of obviously not having any AB. There's a world in which running AB is probably fine. But again, this is not a match that you're normally going to see a whole lot of. And of course, if they have the answers, they have the answers. But most Icelanders specifically also run a lot of these attack actions. So a lot of it just comes down to racing. If we did have AB 3 even in that situation, right, an Arcane Lantern, and maybe these 2 were AB instead, then we'd at least have been able to AB 3 into that. And then what? We could have come in with an outed and then nothing else, and then a dagger. So definitely not a very great choice there, but let's go ahead and try and get into another game and see exactly if we get the same outcome. All right, our opponent here is going to be Dash Database. I think this might actually be a turn in which I want to go first, just because in case they have any items they want to set up and they don't have them on the top of their deck, they really can't. So this is a world in which we're obviously keeping our gear. I think there might be a use case for Battlefront Bastion, but I think we're actually going to keep what we have here and send it. So Dash database, again, it's kind of Dio, right? So what I want to do here is I want to play a lunging press. And then I'm going to try and slay the scholars and probably put the pick up the point at the bottom of the deck or at the in the arsenal here. Notably, the cool thing about this is that Dash database does not start with an item, which means that we don't have to worry about figuring out if they have a boom grenade or a hyperdriver or what have you. So using their headpiece now, and notably, I can pick up the point and then actually this might be a better turn. I think I'm just going to danger digits here. So that way their next block does not block very well. Because I don't really care about my weapons a whole lot. And they have less life. So we're going to go ahead and come in with a... No, I still think it's better to do this. So that way we flick. We still have no dagger, and then they're going to block poorly on this one here. So 0 to 60. I mean, we'll keep it on top. That way we banish it. We'll go ahead and cut to the chase. We'll keep the 0 to 60 on top still. Oh, you know what? I hit yes instead. I'm stupid. All right, well, guess I learned my lesson. I mean, a pump is pretty good. No, I won't sing lock and loaded. That's fine. Because then I get a silver. Sweet. So we still have one floating here. We dealt some damage at the beginning of the turn. We're going to add this to Arsenal. Now they don't have a pump. They don't have a 0 to 60. Sorry, what are they doing? Oh, are they trying to play off the top of the deck? Maybe not. Okay. And notably, now we have a Scar for a Scar. This is a pretty good hand, I gotta say. We can Scar for a Scar into Spider's Bite this, and then we can even annihilate the armed if we keep our whole hand, right? So notably, their backup protocol red, they're going to get the Expedite back. They're going to attempt to play an Expedite. And Hadron Collider. Okay. Crank it. Got one action point still. Play that. Comes in for 6. Go again. That puts me below. So that puts me at enough for a Scar. So I don't really care if they get an item out here. They probably don't even have one. Because that's an Arsenal target. Yeah. Yeah, that's just pure damage on that front there. I don't know that we needed to do anything in regards to that, but Braces of Belief also notably, I think this is just a pretty like general build of this. So we got to keep our whole hand. Our hand is going to be Scar for a Scar into pick up the point into Spider's Bite, pitching this, and then annihilate the armed, pitching this. We could also notably just do this instead, but we're going to take the value. So, and we could also pump the Spider's Bite if we really wanted to. I don't know if there's a world in which we need to, though. They're blocking with the old knocker. Going to probably use its effect. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, you know what? Maybe this is a better plan. Maybe instead we do this. I do retrieve a dagger. And then we do this and then keep something in arsenal. All right, what do they have on top? They're looking at the top. So they're going to try and play that. Yep, okay, it's a boom grenade. That's fine. An outpace? Yeah, I don't really want an outpace. Okay, they're going to take 5. We love to see it. We got a 0 to 60 blue off the top. So we have 2 silver now. All of our armor here is up. They're going to play a boom grenade. So we have to block this turn. We have a card that doesn't block. All of our cards block for 2. I love to see it. Sometimes this is what happens, right? Sometimes this is just what happens. So I can't really get worried. Notably, they have to also have it. So I think they're trying to figure out if they want to do like bracers. Plus X, where X is 3 minus the pitch value of the card revealed this way. So they're looking at the top, looking to see if they have a red, so they can give +2 to their next attack if they want to do a bracers. They're also, I guess they're debating on if they want to play that, if they want to crank the boom grenade. Yeah, they're debating if they want to crank the boom grenade. So they're at 4. Okay. They're playing a 0 to 60. I will block 4. And if we lose because this card's in our hand, it's gonna be a heck of a time, I promise you. A payload. Oh, that's really good for them, actually. I think that wins them the game. Block 2, take 4, 8, 7. Yeah. I definitely think that's game here. Damn. Lost to the payload. They can still Achilles accelerator too. So I get hit for 7 more. Yep. Yep. 2. I can block 2. Cool. Now our turn is to play outed. We're going to try and go for the 3 go again. So we lived, believe it or not, although barely. They gave us 2 cards. That's fucking huge, actually. We just say no blocks. That's huge. That's huge value. Okay. So outpace, this comes in for 4. Okay. We can block for... The real question here is what do they have in their hand? Because they can try shooting, so they're sending at least 6. That 2 could be a throttle. I think we're going to try and bait here. God, I'm so good at this game. Uh-huh. And then I can block with my equipment on their gun. Yeah. Bop, bop. Okay. Good use of armor. We're going to see if we can keep this going. We know they've got a 0 to 60 and a blue... Or no, 0 to 60 on the bottom there. We got a sink below. That's huge. That's huge for us on this turn, actually. And notably, I mean, if we're able to keep 2 cards and send a spider's bite, like, that's pretty big. So, throttle. I need to get rid of one of these cards. I'm going to get rid of the scar tissue. All right, well, didn't work out the way we wanted to, but I guess it kind of did. We're going to block 2. And then I'm going to send 4. See if they give me 2 cards. Hadron Collider from the top of the deck. Expedite Blue. No. Very interesting. Again, they have to play a pretty heavy boost plan into me. I still have one more outed left in the deck. And I still have one more sink below left. So it's kind of close. But I think we're in a pretty good spot here. Again, we're threatening lethal. They don't have armor to block with, so they have to block with a card from hand, which makes their block significantly worse. It also gets me closer to where I need to be for this. Overload script also says overpower too, so that's kind of crazy. We need to get some reactions in this hand, I think. Okay, we got reactions. That's what we like to see. Sprocket Rocket for 6. No overpower. So they're going to try and keep... Okay, so we block 6 here, block 2, send dagger. Okay, I think we get a win here. Maybe, if we're lucky. I'll get eraser, sure. Dagger. Say no blocks. I think this is the point where they should be looking through my graveyard and seeing that I have incisions. Yeah. That's fine. Gotta bait it. Bait it out. Good hand. Good hand for blocking. Good hand for blocking. We're going to comfortably block. 3 here. Because they're gonna boost themselves to death now. So they don't really have much else in this regard. Ooh, except we die. Yeah, that just kills us, huh? Damn. Dominate. Shoot. Yeah, I guess that just does it. So I don't know that there's a way in which I can get through it. Put this to the bottom. Nope. Oh, well. Yep. Dominate definitely is going to be the one to do it. It's the perk of not having the armor and keeping the dominate to the end. Could have sworn that they would have gone through it already, but that's okay. I mean, we kept them on the ropes. Obviously, it's a pretty tight commoner game for what it's worth. They had the plan to go into it here. Give them the good old good game. And then that's it for the games here, right? We've gotten a couple games in here with Arakni. So let's go ahead and talk about how I feel about the deck. All right, so overall, I think there are some things that we did right, some things we did wrong, but overall, the deck performed exactly how I expected to. I think most people who are fans of the commoner format can agree with me in saying that Assassin is kind of just in a rough spot, mostly. They don't have a lot of their very powerful Majestics. Even the rares that they have access to are not available. And so because of that, you essentially just see that you're able to present turns, sure, but when you get put on the back foot, it's really hard for you to commit to determining, like where your lines lay. I mean, obviously, if they didn't have the dominate on that last hand, we were looking at a pretty good turn for a scar, or even just being able to send a dagger. We did catch them on the turn in which they essentially did not fall for our bluff. We sent a Spider's Bite, and they went, well, they probably have the reaction in the banish or in the arsenal, so they blocked for 3, didn't take any risks, and ended up taking a lot of power in that realm. But we continued to keep that card a secret, but of course, unfortunately, it just means that we were unable to cinch the win there for those dominates of the payloads. But anyway, I think the deck performed as I believe it should have. It's got enough reactions in it to be able to get a little bit higher on your damage. Whenever you're able to send in these Spider's Bites, you're able to pump them up for additional damage with Scar Tissue and also Incision. Maybe not both of them are necessary. You know, scar tissue blocking for 2 just kind of feels bad. And I think that you could probably add in something different, maybe a blue block 3, just because there are turns in which, you know, blues probably would have preferred, especially into that Icelander game. But I think overall, the deck does exactly what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to manipulate the deck in a way that allows for you, the the assassin, to make the decision of how do I want this to be. You know, if I was able to play a contract card in that turn and I could see that there was a a payload on top of the deck, I could have then taken that opportunity to put that card to the bottom, so I knew that I would not be running into it for a long while until they were well out of cards. But we had them on the ropes. We blocked effectively. That boom grenade turn was definitely a rough time for me to have a no block in hand. So outed might also get moved out for something else, even if it's like an infect or it's some other 0 for 4 with a block value of 2 even, is great comparatively, because it saves me a lot in regards to being able to get that damage off and really continue to keep my life total heavy. Seeing the sink belows late in the game were pretty good, just because we were able to keep ourselves alive, but they did nothing to really fix our hands. So I do think sink below is still really, really good to fix a hand. I think you just hope to see them earlier in the game than later. Same with the outeds as well. So if you enjoyed today's video of the Arakni or Contractni variety of this hero in Flesh and Blood, please make sure to go ahead and like the video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of the A to Z series for Commoner, as I continue to explore every hero in the current High Seas meta for Commoner in Flesh and Blood, and provide y'all with the information that you need to make a conscious decision as to what hero you're going to play at your next Commoner Armory, or maybe even the gold foil events at Organized Play. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you continue to have fun in the Flesh and Blood. And I will see you all in the next installment of A to Z, the Commoner format.